Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Propagandacast with me, Imperial Dane, and today we have for you a 1 vs 1 on, you'll never guess this, it is Carpiquet Airfield. Yes, indeed, it is a new 1 vs 1 map. I have been asking for it, I have received a few, but so far most of the map haven't really been something I'd perhaps be willing to show. Sometimes I want to show something interesting, and because, well, this is a rather different map. It's in fact pretty huge, it's pretty diverse, there's a lot of buildings in some spots. A lot of other spots don't have as many buildings, and for example this is the more usual way it's actually turned around. You have, for example, all these hangars, you have the air control center, and then you have some other industrial buildings, most likely workshops, and you have some trenches right here in the middle, and of course all along the way the runway. Hey, you also have the only medium yield fuel points right out in the corner, defended by strategic points. This has a rather familiar ring to it as some other maps, although those maps actually escape me at the moment. I do believe the perhaps Langris. Well, this is a bit of a certain usual way. Keep the fuel points at the edge and then protect them with strategic points, making of course harassment bloody easy, and of course making them rather hard to defend. So how do you play such a map? Well, it's huge, it's sort of like Bow Lowlands, except Bow Lowlands, it doesn't really have any choke points, it doesn't really have any easy to defend points. You can't really establish a sort of defensive perimeter, which makes it a lot harder, and I'm still working out any sort of decent way to sort of figure out this map. My best guess would so far to basically designate one side of the runway as basically your Schwerpunkt, a main point of effort. For example, right here near this fuel point, because you are going to need one of those fuel points, otherwise your opponent will quickly go for something heavy and beat the snot out of you. So that's something you're going to have to focus on, and then basically work towards holding that heavily and then trying to do some raids on the other side, but never relinquishing the iron grip on that fuel point and that side. So that's rather the best sort of idea I can come up with at the moment. We'll of course have to see how this goes out, and we'll go have a look at who shall be facing each other on this airfield. And we in fact go have some Luftwaffe aircraft, Heinkel HS-129 I think, armed with a 75mm anti-tank cannon, used as tank buster planes and generally being a nuisance to any allies. In the southern corner defending it we have Gurfo of the 17th Luftwaffe Feld Division. Yes, indeed, we are aware this is Wehrmacht, but of course we have the power of imagination. Of course this isn't going to be Carpiquet, this is some other airport, since the Americans never really got near Carpiquet. That was handled by the Canadians and the 12th SS, but neither of these are Canadians or 12th SS, I'm pretty sure. And who shall be fighting him? None other than our good old friend Rommelslayer. Yes, indeed, off to once more try and slay Rommel. Of course, no one shall actually tell him he's probably not going to have a chance of that, and the trick will actually be done by Herr Hitler himself, that bastard. And of course, Herr Rommelslayer shall be as the 29th Infantry Division, making its way towards this airfield and denying the Luftwaffe the usage of it. So let's get going and see how this works out. We'll probably be seeing the usual start of a barracks, and yes, and some engineers, and the same here, Wehrmacht quarters, and some pioneers coming out of the Reich headquarters. Fun map though, plenty of Opel Blitz trucks, some crashed down planes, wrecked Opel Blitzes, some trenches there. It's in fact the exact same map as the campaign mission from the British campaign, where you're in fact storming the fields of Carpiquet, although you won't have the area beyond it, which is in fact also a part of the mission. In fact, the first it's in fact a two-part mission. The first part having you lead a commando assault clearing out this area beyond the forests. Quite fun actually, interesting. So there you go. And engineers moving towards the south. And we're seeing a jeep going to use some mechanized vehicle to sort of get the advantage right away, or motorized I believe. In this case, to sort of get an early reconnaissance advantage, do a bit of harassment, and this map in fact lends itself very well to harassment. Once more again, why if just sort of laying down a strong point and then sort of working your way towards from that, so you don't end up, for example, the opponent just constantly shifting sides and then harassing and you generally not gaining much. First Volksgrenadier team of the Luftwaffe Feld Division. Luftwaffe Feld Divisions were an interesting concoction by Göring after some of his troops during the Eastern Front performed well, and he in fact ended up because, well, a lot of freed up manpower, and the Wehrmacht in fact was lacking of it, and then he's basically went to Hitler. Well, you know, I have a lot of manpower, you saw those chaps doing well, why not I create my own infantry divisions, and then your Wehrmacht troops can lend them. And then Hitler said, why not? For some reason, which is quite beyond me, which led to the creation of the Luftwaffe Feld Division. They were basically trained Luftwaffe troops as sort of regular army troops, not like the later one, just basically Luftwaffe personnel thrown into the fight without any training, just a gun. They were in fact quite well equipped with the newest MG42s, packs, and they were in fact given Stuks as well, which was a bit irregular for infantry divisions back then, so they were in fact quite lavishly equipped by infantry standards, although in some cases they didn't quite get what they could, but still quite well equipped. But they weren't exactly the best of troops. They did alright, and for example the 16th Luftwaffe Feld Division, which fought on the eastern part against the British, got very, very nastily mauled near Caen, and was itself, I do believe, disbanded later on. And we are seeing a jeep firing at these pioneers here. The first engagement, light 30 caliber machine gun firing away at these pioneers. In the meanwhile, we are seeing riflemen approaching here. Volksgrenadiers right at the opposite side of the runway. Shall we see an engagement? I don't know. No, apparently the Volksgrenadiers ignore them. Apparently intent on spotting down these engineers and putting some good Wehrmacht lead into them. Further riflemen moving in, and rifleman team going for the central victory point. So far, no designation of main point of effort, though we are seeing some Volksgrenadiers here as well, ready to protect. Hauptmann Gurfo, a goofy name a bit, I suppose. Pioneers taking up position right here at the transformer station building, forcing away these engineers apparently somehow. Volksgrenadiers not rushing in to actually deal with them, instead engineers seizing this strategic cut-off point, perhaps not the best move. Volksgrenadiers moving into this trench. Also remember, for this mission there actually used to be a Pantherturm, a Panther tower, which was basically a fortification with the gun tower of the Panther. Rather basic fortification. Of course, the Panther gun was itself quite lethal. Not entirely sure as to the effectiveness of it though, so don't question me on that. I don't have any information as of that. And we are seeing a bunker here and an MG42, so I'm going to suspect this will in fact be the main point of effort. This shall be the Luftwaffe Feld Division Schwerpunkt. And it's not exactly a bad idea to basically at one point designate where most of your efforts will be going on, at least for the beginning of the map, until you have a solid foothold, and then taking it on from there. In particular, if you're suspecting you might be defending, even attacking, it can't be nice, because otherwise you might be facing an opponent who will be quite aggressively harassing you. And we are seeing the rifleman team getting brutally suppressed right there on the other side of this fortified trench. Volksgrenadiers blasting away. Jeep though flanking, not getting focused down. Lots of manpower though for the Rommelslayer. And not looking good at all. Forced into a large retreat, leaving behind a medic bunker, but nothing there to actually challenge it. Wehrmacht forces though have secured the west, but the east has fallen into the hands of the American forces, leaving behind the bunker and its medics. Let us hope those Americans will uphold the Geneva Convention, or shall they just be bullies and gun down those helpless medics. Further Volksgrenadiers marching out, meaning we are seeing 3 Volksgrenadier teams out for the Wehrmacht. A good solid infantry start, I might add. We shall of course have to see how this goes. Wehrmacht forces continuing to push in the west, not laying down any mines to perhaps protect some of this, even some barbed wire to make seizing this territory harder. No, instead just moving out, and we are seeing the jeeps swinging about, and riflemen hiding in the trench. I'm not entirely sure why. And I do believe night is slowly creeping upon this map. Again, some maps do have some sort of day-night cycle, so that's actually interesting. Volksgrenadiers staying up here, but again, note, cover is directional, and sort of as you may be noticing here, there's nothing in this direction, so it's not going to be the best position for the Volksgrenadiers. Now we are seeing engineers with flamethrowers moving in, but reinforcements are moving in, probably an MG42 and some Volksgrenadiers. Pioneers though getting gunned down by the jeep with 3 kills so far. Volksgrenadiers seizing this munitions point. A lot of pressure currently on the Americans, not holding most of the map, but again, they can easily gain it because currently the Wehrmacht player can't hold everything, and of course the American presses in one area, the Wehrmacht shall fall in that area. And of course, again, why I suggest designating basically a Wehrmacht sort of Schwerpunkt point of effort, so you can actually concentrate your defenses until you can gather up enough forces and leave a decent defense force behind. course, again, this map is something where you will most likely be seeing a lot of harassment. An incredible, huge lot of it. So in fact, you should be prepared, and that, of course, that is something that can be a bit harder to sometimes get around to. So keep that in mind. In meanwhile, we are seeing Wehrmacht forces gathering up here by the medic bunker, and further troops are being sent in. Pioneers Volksgrenadier team right here, and we are seeing a air reconnaissance run, spotting out where the Wehrmacht forces are gathering, of course. Then being able to really figure out that perhaps there's absolutely nothing here in the west, so that's not a bad idea. And of course, reconnaissance is generally what you want to do, and of course that's why the steep is also helpful. You can basically spot out where the enemy is and where he isn't, and then strike accordingly. Bunker getting a few repairs, and we are seeing some infantry veterancy out for the Volksgrenadiers. Veterancy 1 meaning a bit of self-healing. Not a bad veterancy upgrade, something I might recommend in general. In fact, we're also seeing a Krieg barracks going up, and Pyreneon moving out as well, all the fun bits. And we are seeing some broken wing from a British plane, perhaps a Lancaster or some other thing. And we are seeing Wehrmacht forces also focusing on the central point. A bit laid back here, perhaps setting up here would be a nice point. A bit of barbed wire, a bit of sandbags, some mines right around this spot could in fact make for a very good, strong defensive point. But apparently he's taking the slightly more laid back position, which I'm not entirely sure is a good thing, because it will also put that medic bunker right at the front line of trouble. And we are seeing sticky bombs being equipped. Weapon support center going up. We will be seeing some American snipers as well. American forces doing a bit of harassment here, seizing the fuel point, while the Wehrmacht is unable to in fact seize this fuel point as well. Not the most fortunate point, as in fact will bereave them of most of the fuel, but then again they do have most of the other low yield though, so that will make up for it. Large American force moving out though, jeeps, flamethrowers, riflemen, and with a sniper in support. And now we are seeing pioneers and flamethrowers and some Volksgrenadiers moving towards the west. And we aren't seeing any sort of fortification work here. Not entirely sure that's a good idea. In fact, Volksgrenadiers coming under fire and getting brutally outnumbered as the Americans approach through the aircraft. Approaching the Volksgrenadiers. Volksgrenadiers seeing quite a bit of fire. In fact, one is caught on fire and dies beneath the wings of the wrecked plane. Americans begin seizing this point. Might be the turning point for the Americans.